My name is William Hopper. I'm a musician since 1955. I started playing guitar. My father taught me to play by ear when I was a boy, and he had me playing some lead guitar and lap steel guitar in the country field, maybe some flat pick and a little bit of borderline bluegrass music, and I've just continued to play over the years. I've gotten into rock bands, and I've gotten into country bands, things like that. Played in special services in the military when I was drafted, and did some entertaining of the troops and all that. I'm not as good as some, but I'm better than some, so I'm just happy where I'm at, and I'm always trying to improve. I'm assuming here that you know how to play your instrument, whatever that instrument is, and I am assuming you have an understanding of chords and the progressions, the chord families. I am not real learned in music theory. I've been watching a fellow, Rick Beato, and he is an excellent teacher. And if you don't know chord theory and structure and all of those things, he's a good guy to watch. It can be a little overwhelming. Some of those chord names he rattles off are longer than the alphabet, but he knows what he's doing, and if you pay attention, there's a lot to be learned there. I'm going to be working pretty much with sound today. I'm not going to get into, what chord is which and how it's built and all of that, how it relates to the scales. I'm going to work with sound and just what sounds nice to my ears. Most of the music that I write isn't written that way. I just play what I think sounds good. Sometimes I'll pick up my guitar and I'll just find some open strings and a few fingering positions and play some of these open string chords and see if I can find something that sounds, kind of exotic, and then I just start playing along to that. And so anyway, enough said on that. I'm just going to jump right in here. The first thing I do, if I don't already have a melody that I've awakened with, or some sort of an idea of what I want to do, maybe I've got a feeling to write a melancholy song, or maybe I want something with some power, like a herd of buffalo coming over a ridge. I try to put something in my mind, some kind of a scenario of maybe a storyline or something that's going on, but you can also just start playing and see what comes out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm not going to hit record, and I have a very boring backdrop for you to look at while I'm doing this, but I'm going to try and not get too close to the mic and overdrive it. But here we go. This is playing on an E minor Native American flute with a minor pentatonic scale, and I'm pretty much going to stay with the standard scale. I'm not going to drift off into anything elaborate. There we go. I found something already. I like that sound. I've got a little bit of a wet out problem here with this Washington State is pretty humid, and I get these flutes wet out pretty easy. So if you hear some tapping sometimes, it's me trying to clear the water out of the flute. All right, so that I kind of like that little 3-note run there. So then maybe I can build on that. So I'm going to start with that, and then I'm going to see what I can find that maybe goes after that. I like that. Okay, so kind of leaves me with a foot up in the air, but it still needs to go somewhere. Let's just continue it on. there's a complete thought. Okay, so that's a starting place for a song right there. Now I could write that, I could record that, and then maybe use a little punch in and come up with another piece and do it that way. But I'm gonna just keep this real short, so I'm gonna see if I can find something to go along with that. And bear in mind that this may change as I'm going here too, but I think I've got something to work with. Let's see what happens. Okay, I'm gonna need to get a feel for that tempo, so let me bring this up here and see what kind of a tempo I got. Let's hit record and see what I get for a tempo. And nothing is happening. There it goes. I don't hear them. Oh, I turned it off by accident. Let's see how that feels. Now, you know what? That feels like a waltz. I think it needs to be a waltz. So let me try that. Let me change that to 3/4 time here. The wrong way. Let's try it with a little bit of a waltz beat to it. That felt pretty good. I wonder if that's recording the metronome. Probably is. Let's see here. Yeah, let's see. Oh, it didn't seem like it was recording the metronome, so that's good. Let me record that one more time and see if I can get it a little bit more polished, maybe. Okay, that's enough to demonstrate what we're trying to do here. All right, so let me go back now and just make sure that everything's coming out here right. I haven't used this particular setup before. I'm using a screen capture utility, like OBS, Open Broadcast System, something like that. So I'm brand new to it. So let's see if we get a good sound, nice volume out of this thing. Let's disarm these tracks. Here we go. Okay, I got some. That doesn't sound too bad. Let's move the reverb over here to the effects channel, and I want to get this off of preview. We'll put it back out to master, and I'll just trying to get it set up so it sounds a little bit decent here, so bear with me. We need a send. All right. Okay, so I got something recorded. I just kind of let the juices flow and came up with a melody that sounds halfway decent. And you know, again, it's not anything that's destined to be a hit anywhere, but it's a place to get started on this thing. So now we'll switch over here. I'm not using live instruments because I just don't have, where I'm staying is a temporary situation, and I'm leaving here Friday, so I just really don't have anything set up on any kind of a permanent basis here. And it looks like I recorded over my chords, so give me a little bit of a heartbeat here and I will put some chords in place here. So that's starting on 3, so let's zoom in a little bit. And we got an E minor flute, so let's start with the obvious. Let's do E minor. And a G and a B. And let's move that up so we can hear it. That's pretty. Let's hear, maybe we'll start on 2 and let's just loop that for a bit. See what we get. Okay, I think that sounds good across that. Just for giggles here, I'd like to, you know, the relative major of that would be what, G? So let's try a G major 7 just for giggles. See what that sounds like. And so that would be G, D. I'm drawing a blank here. G, B, and D. So we need a D here, and then we need a G flat. Let's hear that. Let's hear what that sounds like. No, I'm messing up somewhere. We won't go there for right now, because actually, if I'm playing across a G minor 7th, I would approach that scale a little bit different. So let's put this back. And you know, that really is part of the writing process, is experimenting, trying things out, see what you think. You know, for the melody I came up with, that isn't going to work. I could probably find another chord, but I don't want to make this a 7-hour video. So we got our G minor. So let's listen to that again. That fits very well. Right there, it sounds like it needs to change chords. While that tone fits well, it doesn't fit like it should. So I'm going to cut this chord here. And I'm just going to try an obvious one, maybe an A minor. And I don't want to change the overall sound too much, so I'm going to drop that E down to here. And we'll extend this out a little bit. And let's move this loop a bit. Let's listen to that. That sounds pretty good. Just for giggles, let's try a D major on that. Draw it. And let's see, that would be a D, an F sharp, and an A. No, yeah, A. Let's try that. This is all on the fly, so you're hearing mistakes and all. Now that sounds good that way too. So the question becomes, do I want to go up or down with that chord progression? Let me go back to the A minor and see how that sounds to me. So let's move this back up to A. And we will put this back on the C, and we got the E. So let's listen to that again. I think I like that better. So, you know, that's the creative part. That's where you say, what sounds better? What's fitting the song I'm working on here? What am I hearing in my mind? What's better, you know? I've got clearly two choices, and I'll lay you odds there's a few other choices in there too where that melody could fit just fine across a different chord. So I've got the first two chords. Let's just play around a little bit and see what happens with the next chord. Now it's going back to the original opening line, but let's see what happens across a D chord. I kind of like the way that D sounded, so let's pursue that. Let's listen to that. See what we get. That doesn't work. It doesn't sound right to me there. Well, let's try another one here. So where would we go to the next one? Let's try a B. Will we do a B minor? Let's see here. B. I usually just play these things, so I'm having to just kind of mess around with it a little bit here. Let's hear that. Nope. There we go. I just missed it by one note. Here we go. Let's listen to how that sounds now. Ah, come on. All right, let's listen. No, that doesn't work. So I think probably the best thing to do on this one is just go back to the original chord that we started on, because it's a kind of a repeating melody anyway. So let's listen to that. Okay. Oops, excuse me. I like that. So let's run this out again, and let's see if we can I'll shorten this loop up so we're not taking up so much time here. Maybe I'd like to hear how it's getting to where it's at. So let's leave at least one chord changed in place. And let's hear where the melody's going. Now that sounds like it might go to a B there. It's kind of going to a different place than the last two portions of the melody. So let's put in a B minor, maybe. So B, D, and F sharp. Let's hear that. Let's hear how that sounds. It might be major, might be better. Oh, there's one of them happy accidents. When it looped back to the second bar there, it actually gave me a place to actually go with the melody. So I thought that was kind of cool, kind of a happy accident. I want to hear a B major just for giggles. You know, I'm not trying to do any music theory at all here. I just want to play with sound. So maybe I'm breaking a rule by putting a B major there. I don't care. I just want to hear what it sounds like. I thought that sounded a little bit better. It's not quite what I would normally put there, but I like, because of the note choices, I like it. Kind of just feels like it fits better. So I'm going to go with that. Let's hear where else it goes. Now, where does it go from here? All right, so it looks like we're repeating that again, so I'm just going to move these two chords up here. So this whole process, you could say, is trial and error, and maybe some of it is, you know, and maybe some of it is, you know, just developing the skill to listen to what you're hearing and decide if you like it or not, you know. And not once in this whole process am I even worried about if anybody else out there in the world likes what I'm coming up with. I'm writing a song for the sake of writing a song. If I decide it's a pretty good song when I'm done, I'll put it out there for people to listen to. If it isn't a good song, maybe I don't feel good about it, I won't. But I'm writing it because I'm trying to make it sound good to me, nobody else. You start trying to please the world, and that's a big job. Okay, so let me listen to what I have so far. Okay, that's all working. Let's go to measure 16. We'll take a listen to where the melody's going there. Whoops. Should have gone to 17, I guess. Cutting it off in the middle of a phrase there, so let me move that up to 19. Okay, so what I heard there was what in country music we'd call it a turnaround. So I'm going to put a turnaround in there. And, you know, I could experiment, but, you know, sometimes all you really got to do is draw on your experience. And, you know, I've heard that particular little melody line a zillion times, so I'm pretty sure I can just turn this one around. And I got that off-centered somehow. I haven't set my snaps, I guess. So let's go up to a B. And I'm going to put it as a minor just for giggles. And then I need to come back to the E minor again, so let's try that. I could do all this playing instruments, but I don't want a video that's 18 hours long while I record each little track, so that's why I'm doing it in this manner. Whoops, I missed a note there. Oh, I got it one off. See, I'm using sound, and these, you know, I could figure out what chord that is, and I could analyze all the notes, and I could do all that stuff. But you know, does it sound good? That's what matters. How does it sound? I think maybe major is going to be better there too. I just thought I'd try it. Okay, so you know that kind of, I'm going to save that real quick. I may use that somewhere someday, I don't know. And I don't think I recorded any further than that. So now I've got it in place, and I've got a what I think is a fairly good melody there. So I'm going to take just a couple of seconds here, and I've done enough YouTube videos now that I can get away with having a little bit longer, oh, I can't even think here. Longer videos, I guess that word was escaping me. So I'm going to set up another synth here just quickly. And I kind of like the big sound, maybe string orchestra, strings grand. There's a good one. I like that one. Hear what that sounds like. The attack's pretty short. That's probably going to work. And I like to be able to see the chords behind me, so I'll see if I can put in a bass line. So probably the best thing to do, the easiest thing to do, or the most obvious thing to do is use the same scale as the flute. So I'm going to start with a E. Let's see how low that is. That's pretty low. Actually might sound pretty good. I'm going to change the snap down here to 16ths. And I'm not going to get real elaborate there, so I just want to make something that sounds nice. So let's move this loop back to 7. It's a little loud. Now an obvious choice going to A would be A. But let's try some of the others. Obviously don't sound good. And I'm purposely making a few mistakes here on this part because I just want to show the process. It didn't sound good. And that's a no-brainer, you know. You know, that may not be the world's best, but maybe if I did that and then resolve to the A, let's try that. Let's reverse the order. Like that. Okay, so now I've decided an ascending line. Now we'll go and see how the next chord fits in. Let's shorten this up a little bit. This is all a creative process. I could use the root notes and be just fine, but I like a little movement in the bottom end of the music. So it's just me, it's just the way I like it. So here we go. Now we're dropping back to the E minor. I could go down. I don't like it dropping down. I'm going to go up. I'm going to try the E first and see how it sounds because it's the obvious choice. Yeah, I'm going to split that one and maybe try a D in there. It probably ain't going to work, but I like to experiment with dissonance too. I actually like that sound. I don't know if it's missed, if it's musically correct or not. It's part of the scale, I think. Pretty sure it is. E, G, A, B, D. Yeah, D's part of that scale, so I'm staying in the scale. And now let's figure out where it's going from there. Here we go. I think dropping to the B would be just natural. I just want to try this moving back down towards the E, and let's see if it sounds better that way. I'm going to shorten that one down. I don't like that interval there, or that, I don't know what the word is, cadence, the change. I don't like the change there. That fits much better. That's much better. I kind of forgot I was in 3/4 time here, and I put it in between the beats there, and it didn't quite sound right. So we're just about through this thing. So it's not necessarily repeating here, so I don't want to just shortcut it. I'll just move up here and work with what we got, and maybe I'll just simplify it a bit for the sake of time. I think, on this one, I think I would like to just hold that low note and play the 5 below the 1 there, and give it a little bit of a break in there. See how that sounds. All right, now we need to go up to the B there, so let's see what we got. Try a G. And maybe a G flat, just for giggles. Okay, so I've got a complete piece there. I've got a melody, I've got some chords to go along with it, I've got a bass line. The only thing left is drums. Drums, I'm just going to do a real simple deal here. I think I just need to add it in because. So what am I going to use for drums? I think I'll just use a drum kit. I could get into frame drums and all that, but I think I'll just set up a kit. So let's use Addictive Drums 2. And I'll just take the stock kit. Okay, so if you guys know drum theory or how to play drums, I don't know if there's such a thing as drum theory. I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna make up a drum kit, a drum track here. So I know the kick drum should hit on the 1 in your basic. And actually, I think I'll rather than do like a pa pa, I think I'll spread it out a little bit. What they call it, 6/8 or something like that. So we got, and then we got a hi-hat. We'll just count it in hi-hat here. And let's hear that. Okay, there's a little thing about if you're writing drums this way and you don't have drums, you know, then you got to think about how drummers actually play. And you know, one of the biggest mistakes when somebody's writing a piece by hand this way is you'll write a guitar chord or something like that, and it would literally tie a guitar player's fingers in knots to try and play that chord. And if you play an open E note, what would be an open E on a guitar, and then harmonize with a G note on the same string, that's not physically possible. So you got to think about those kinds of things. But there's a thing called, I guess, dynamics when you're playing any instrument. A drummer, at least when I play drums, I tend to hit a little harder on that hi-hat when I'm hitting the kick drum or the snare. And I don't know if I do it on purpose or if I just do it. But so what we do is we just throw some variation on here. And Sonar actually has a tool that you can use to humanize it, and it'll vary the timing just a little bit and all of that. But you know, if I were going to do this into a song, then I would pull out my drums and I would play the drums. I actually use a Rock Band set, and I run it through a converter to get it into the MIDI mode, and then I record the MIDI strikes and assign it to a drum kit. I used to have an acoustic set, but I got rid of them a long time ago because they took up too much room. I don't have a large studio like some folks. I just have a little place where I record. And I don't really care for a hard kick, so I'm going to lower that down a little bit to about in the 40s range. And this one is probably okay. That sounds decent, but I think maybe a little bit more. Now let's hear that. And I think I like a second kick right here. So anyway, if you're playing drums or you're trying to write the drums, I remember Rick Beato put a pretty good tutorial on how to figure out what the beats are and how to write them into place, so I won't duplicate his efforts. I thought it was pretty good, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to copy this. Whoops, shouldn't hold that down. Whoop, did it wrong. Come on. This is live, folks, so you're going to see a few errors here. All right. So we're going to put that there. And I don't necessarily want that double kick there every time, so let's hear that. I want something right here. Let's hear that. Okay, I like that. So now I'm just going to highlight all this and take my pattern brush and draw this out to the end of the song. And I could put a cymbal crash on it and all that stuff, and you know, I could put in some drum fills. I just don't want to take the time to do that. What I wanted to do today was just demonstrate the process that I go through when I'm creating a song. You know, I've kept this very simple. I've used very basic chords, and I've stayed away from using any music theory terms. I'm just trying to, you know, reach some of those people out there that play by ear that don't have any clue about music theory. You can find a chord that fits just by putting a note in and playing a second note till it sounds good, and playing a third note till it sounds good. There's all kinds of ways to get to Denver. You don't have to take the mountain pass every time. But I would strongly encourage anyone that's learning to play, instead of saying, you know, playing by ear is the only way. You know, learn to play by ear. I don't think it's necessarily right either to say the only way to learn is music theory. You need to understand everything there is to know about everything that you're doing. And, because for me, playing comes from the heart. It doesn't come from the head. I have to have some knowledge so that I can play my instrument. I have to know how to get a G chord. I have to know the pathway across that fretboard. They call them scales and modes and all that. Arpeggios, there's all kinds of terms they use, but it's just a pathway across the scale. And you have to know some of that in order to be able to express what's coming from your heart. So I think the very best thing to do is practice both ways. Learn to sight read, but learn to play by ear too. Learn the music theory, but learn to just appreciate the way things sound. You can make a chord up on your guitar, playing some open strings and all that, and you can come up with some just beautiful sounding chords. And then you can go back and say, well, I'm using a D and an E and a F sharp or whatever notes they are, and you can say, that would be a B flat 7 augmented divided by 7. You could figure out what the name of it is, so you would know. If you want to share it with people, you can do sheet music and all of that. There's a lot of good reasons to learn music theory. I'm in my 60s now, so it really doesn't matter how much theory I learn, but I am very interested in it, and I am watching anything and everything that I can find on music theory and modes and all of that, just so I can understand what I've been doing my whole life. I've always done it by sound. I hear a sound and I say, well, I know how to make that sound. I can play that kind of a riff, and that would fit perfectly right here. I can do that by sound, but it's nice to know. If you're trying to figure out how to write a song, you got this creative part, but it's a real time saver if you know that you need to use a minor mode to get this sound, or a Lydian, or a Mixolydian, or a Locrian. If you know what will get you that sound, that's going to be a time saver. You still have to think and listen and say, does it sound good? Because it can be musically correct and not sound real good in the context of the song you're writing. And so, I'm starting to get off on a more of a philosophical note there, I think, and all of that. But so the process is you have to get an idea first, and you can do that. You can wake up with it. You can sit down and say, I'm going to come up with a melody here. And you can start picking notes and playing with them. That's what I did on the flute. I just started playing some familiar intervals that I played before, and I came up with one that kind of caught my attention, and then I've developed that. You can do it one note at a time. You can do it a phrase at a time. Does the piece I'm working on here, does it fit with the one I just played? If it doesn't fit at all, if it doesn't seem to flow naturally, then maybe it's not good. But that's all that creative process. And, I can't give anybody a magic formula on how to actually come up with an idea. That's a creative thing. That to create, that comes right out of your core. But, once you've got a melody in place, now you can figure out, well, what scale am I using? Maybe we didn't do it on a flute that has a pre-built scale. Maybe you're playing the guitar and you just come up with this nice little riff. Well, figure out what the scale is, and then you can figure out what the chords would be to go with that scale, and you can start putting chords in there and listening to them as the melody is played across those chords. You can decide what chord sounds good with each part. Once you get a part that kind of comes to a complete thought, you can call that a verse. And then you need drums. What kind of drums do you want? It depends on the feel. If you're trying to play some Indian music, then get yourself maybe a udu drum, or a djembe or something like that. Get some shakers and some rattles, maybe some bells or a metal drum. If you're playing rock music, get yourself a kit. Work with a kit. It just depends on what you're trying to do. Maybe you just want a dreamy song that just kind of just floats along. Don't use any drums at all. That's the creative process, deciding what sounds good. And I guess I could sum this whole thing up. What sounds good? That's what you need to do. You need to do what sounds good. You've got all kinds of tools available. Music theory is a wonderful tool. I would encourage anyone to learn music theory. But you still got to figure out if it sounds good or not. And that's where I'm coming from in this tutorial. So I hope that's helpful. And, it's not the only way. It's the way I do it. I come up with something, I put it down, I flesh it out. Maybe I decide I want some big string sounds in the background. Maybe I want to add some horns, whatever. I'm the one that decides what that painting is going to look like when it's all done. So with that, I'll let you go. I appreciate your taking time to listen to what I have to say, and I hope somebody finds something useful in it. Thank you.